For those people who haven't heard Szymanowski's music, can you describe what they will hear the first time they hear it?
Few periods of the styles. For me, the kind of Oriental periods, as we call it, it's like a dazzling light, and you can hear it in his concerto, violin concerto first. You've got Third Symphony, you've got King Roger, and for me, it's like many lights and shadows you can hear. He lived not quite far, but in mountains, which we're still kind of south of Poland, Katowice. And he lived in Atma, so you've got mountains and all the kind of music which comes from there. So there you've got also kind of some of his music with the kind of folk tradition, and so I think it's beautiful. It's beautiful music. So if you kind of open for something which is not maybe obvious, and sometimes you have to get closer to see all kind of shadows and lights and glitterings.
Hello, you're listening to the Thoroughly Good Classical Music Podcast. My name is Jon Jacob. This episode has been made in Katowice in Poland, the home of the Polish National Radio Symphony Orchestra, the location of a relatively new concert hall, opened in 2014, the NOSPR Concert Hall, and it's also where the first Karol Szymanowski Music Competition is being held. I've not been here for the entire competition. That has consisted of 68 competitors across 5 categories: piano, composition, voice, string quartets and violins. And they were picked from more than 100 applicants for the entire competition. Instead, I've been here for the violin finals, which featured 6 violinists selected from 44 through a first stage and a second stage. So 6 violinists playing 2 concertos each on 2 consecutive days. I've also been here for the singers final as well. But this podcast isn't only about competitions. I've been to 4 this year. They are incredibly addictive things, not because of the challenge of picking a winner or the joy of picking a winner, although that is quite enjoyable. It's more the rich opportunity you get to hear new performing talent from across Europe and in some cases from across the world. But it's also a fantastic opportunity to discover new repertoire and get to know the works of composers whose music might be unfamiliar, and at the same time get a different perspective on the concert-going experience. All that in 45 minutes, hopefully. The top line about this trip has undoubtedly been, for me, the acoustic of the hall. I'd done a bit of research beforehand. I'd looked at a PDF, but nothing had quite prepared me for the impact of the NOSPR Concert Hall. Such experiences can stop me dead in my tracks. Fortunately, I had a guide with me to keep things moving along. Now just tell me how I pronounce your name, because obviously, as you will have already noticed, that I'm struggling with most Polish names, so maybe you can just tell me that first.
My first name and the surname is quite funny because it doesn't sound very Polish. My name is Sebastian, so basically this is very easy for all
for all English people.
The only difference is Sebastian or more Sebastian in German.
Right, so is it Sebastian?
Sebastian.
Okay,
Sebastian is absolutely right.
Fine.
And the surname is Gronet.
Gronet.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit German as well because my roots are probably there. So.
Well, that's one of the easier names for me to...
Some people ask me if I am French because it really
Do they?
it really sounds good in French. It's Sébastien Grenet, so
Yeah.
it's quite quite funny.
Okay,
It's gonna be easy, don't worry.
so maybe we can start off with you telling me where we are.
We are right now in a foyer of SEAT, the new venue of Polish National Radio Symphony Orchestra. You have just entered the venue from the main entrance, and we are in this interesting point which shows us some way how it was built, because on the ground we have this line which divides two buildings, because in fact here in this venue we have two different separated completely buildings. We have this internal building which consists only the concert hall, internal part, and the outer building, which is more for administration, for technical rooms, etc., etc. They are built on a separate fundaments completely. Additionally, the concert hall is vibro-isolated and completely vibro-isolated. We have some kind of isolation, which is which helps with the vibrations, and as well, of course, everything here in this venue is connected with the sound, with acoustics. So it was very important to have some kind of a separation of the concert hall because in fact we are right now in the center of quite a big city. Just next to us we have this very noisy road, one of the noisiest routes in Katowice. So this outer second building separates the concert hall from all of the noises which can come from the outside, and they shouldn't, obviously. The other thing is that we have a lot of noisy technical machines, rooms, etc. And all of them are also separated from the concert hall because they are situated in this outer building. So this is also very, very, very nice. The thing is that the architect, the main architect, Mr. Tomasz Konior, really thought about how it's going to sound from the same start. So they didn't try to build something which looks very good from architectural point of view, and they didn't care about the sound. They wanted everything to be connected with the sound. And there is a nice story because Tomasz Konior was presented to Maestro Christian Zimmermann, who was some kind of a positive lobbyist for this concert hall, because he really loves Katowice and the orchestra. He really wanted this very good orchestra to have such a good venue, a good concert hall. And he decided to bring Tomasz Konior to hear the best concert halls, in opinion of Christian Zimmermann, around the world. And they went to different concert halls, and after all, they decided that the best are made with the company from Japan, who are working for more acoustical engineering, which is Nagata Acoustics. Probably you're familiar with that company because it's quite famous. And Mr. Yasuhisa Toyota was the one to cooperate with the architect all together from the same start to have such a good quality in the end.
Did Christian Zimmermann go to London? Did he take them to London at all?
I know that they were in Suntory Hall, for example. They were in Walt Disney Hall in the United States. I don't know the exact names of the rest, but I think that they were not in London. Sorry.
How very honest of it.
I am crucial. I am
to
crucial. But this is something what I read. It's because I haven't been to Barbican or another concert halls in London, to be honest. But I've read a lot of articles that there is a problem. Yeah, that there is not a very good concert hall in London. So this is something what I know from opinions from articles, not
excellent work.
Maybe not the Christian Zimmermann's opinion.
No, that's fine. Right, now where would you like to take me next, sir, please?
I would just like to say just few words about the thing which is outside and inside as well. Okay, just a few sentences, because when you were coming here, you probably saw the red bricks.
Yes.
Basically, the outer facade of the building is made with those red bricks, and you probably see those red inside parts around the windows. This is quite important because this visual part of the outer building is rooted in specific Silesian architecture. So we have this oldest part of Katowice, which is Nikiszowiec district, and it was made by German owners of the coal mines for the workers. And whole area looks like that. We have those red bricks and red color surrounding the windows. It is very specific for Silesian architecture, and architect wanted this building to be rooted, to be some kind of a metaphor what was happening here before. And we have also the second metaphor here inside. If you could take a look up on this big wall, dark wall of the internal building.
It's like a massive salad bowl. That's what it looks like, a really big salad bowl.
Yeah, I'm always laughing because when I have, for example, guided tours for kids here, I'm always asking, oh, what do you think? What is that? And they, Star Wars. and
right, yeah, I'm not a big Star Wars fan.
But this Star of Death or whatever.
The Death Star.
The Death Star. It really looks like that. So it's quite funny. But to be honest, the shape and the color collocates to the mineral, to coal itself, because coal has been very important in Upper Silesia for many, many years. It is still quite important. And you can see that because this is a concrete mass, basically, colored like that in a production stage. But you can see that the structure of this wall is quite specific because you can see some kind of a benches or something like that. And it is also quite important because we are, I told you about it before, that we are right now on a former area of the coal mine. And exactly the place where the whole building is built on was so-called wooden place, because next to the coal mine you always have wooden place. You have to get a lot of wood to construct all of the corridors under the ground. And this is also some kind of a metaphor of what we had before and what we have right now. So I think that this is some kind of a nice idea that architect made it like that.
Lovely. Where now?
I think that we should enter the most beautiful part of our venue, so the concert hall.
It's the place with the comfortable seats.
Yes.
Amongst other
Opinions about
this,
performance.
actually, before we go in the hall, this having come through this corridor twice, this strikes me as actually quite important because you go from a hall sort of environment almost into a studio. I mean, you can tell by the change in the quality of the sound. That was clearly deliberate, preparing you for the concert hall.
I should mention that, to be honest. I told you about this first stage of muting from the outer. We also have the second stage of muting from the foyer. We have those big, really heavy doors, and this corridor, which is, filled up with a very soft material, which is just muting everything here. You can hear it with the ears. It is completely different.
It makes me feel like it's time for bed.
Yeah, this is very good.
It's gorgeous. It's lovely. Okay, onwards.
Okay, so.
Oh, look at this. Oh, isn't it the most? It's the most glorious treat to be the only person in a concert hall. It's so quiet. Obviously, that was the point.
And the temperature is very good because it's quite hot day today in Katowice. So
what is the most important thing for you about this hall?
For me, I will tell you about my story of classical music because I am not a musicologist. I wasn't a classical music lover before I came here to work here in the marketing department. Formerly, I worked for musical theater in the city close to Katowice. And I wasn't very into classical music, and I knew that this concert hall is amazing, and I came here like It was opened in October. I came here in December, and I was it was my second day of work. I came here, but without music. I was amazed, obviously, because everybody is amazed with how it looks like. But after all, I came here with my wife to the concert. And to be honest, it's for me it's quite obvious that everybody who come here for the first time, even those who even I don't know doesn't like classical music, they will come here again because the sound here is just amazing, and it makes you love music just like that. And after all, after many years here, 4 years, I can say that I'm a classical music lover right now. And it is not only because our orchestra or the work I do, but obviously because of the sound, because in this concert hall it really sounds different. It's not something like at home with really good audio even. You have like 100 people who are playing their instrument on the stage, and you are sitting, because I was sitting on the second, because there was no tickets available here, and I was like in the last rows with my wife. And I know that for a fact right now that it's altogether almost 50 meters from the stage, and I could hear each instrument, all of the solos, etc. And it was for me quite amazing because I could percept the whole piece with all of the details, and it was quite amazing. And the rest are just feelings. So
no, I'd concur. Actually, I heard Sibelius 2 last night, a violin concerto, and it sounded really nerdy detail, but I've never heard the viola part in Sibelius 2, and that's quite strange, because actually in that process you realise the extent to which quite a lot of concert-going experiences are quite comparatively quite muddy. Mm-hmm. How long did it take to build?
Only 2 years.
Only 2 years?
Only 2 years.
Because there's a lot of wood in here.
A lot of wood, a lot of concrete. We have this combination of basically wood and concrete. The concrete is for keeping the sound inside the concert hall. All of those almost black waved walls are made with concrete, which is a very tough material, which helps with embracing all of the sound waves, and all of the different structures are helping as well with embracing the sound waves in a different ways, in a different routes. And the wood on the one hand is a nice comparison to cold concrete, warm wood. And from the visual point of view, it looks like string instruments. It's close to them. This is birch. Birch is the wood for Stradivarius. So basically, the architect says that he wanted every people who are coming to the concert hall to feel like the big instrument inside the concert hall. And in some way, those classical good concert halls are like instruments itself. So this is a nice metaphor, I think, as well.
What are we doing? Why are we all here? What are we going to do?
Surprise! This is surprise.
Are we going upstairs?
Yes, we are going with the elevator.
So I have to call Anna.
Anna?
Mm-hmm.
She's coming with us?
She would like to come.
This is, I have to say, it's quite nerve-wracking. I don't know that I've ever recorded anything where people are just going, "Oh, we're doing the surprise now? Are we going upstairs?" And people, smiling at me in a way that slightly terrifies me.
Maybe we're not going to kill you.
Well, that's a good start.
You didn't write anything online that you are going somewhere when you don't know this place.
No, and there's no 3G, is there? There's no service.
So it's getting funnier.
Yeah. When you say funny.
No,
you are British. You have British sense of humor.
Yeah, I also didn't realise that Polish sense of humour was quite so dry.
Maybe mine is. Not everybody.
They actually get sarcasm. Great.
Not all of us.
No?
They became very serious.
Is it going to be loud? Do I need to adjust my levels?
No.
Oh. Okay.
We are going to the floor number 4.
Right.
Usually only 3 are available for the audience. But we are going up and up and up. Somewhere.
Do you do this for everybody?
No.
Oh, okay. Only for British people who have a tendency to feel quite nervous.
I was just thinking the day before yesterday, what can we do for you? I was like,
Ooh.
sorry?
Ooh. Oh.
Don't worry.
I do. It's probably safe. That's what you say. I have to tell. I do have a thing about heights. Did you know that? You wouldn't have known that, or maybe you did know that. Oh, where? Oh no. Oh, I do really have a problem with heights.
I will go first.
Trudność
You go
polega na
first.
tym, że trzeba tam zejść na dół.
I know.
So let's
Oh, you
try
go down?
to do it.
Tam zejdzie światło na dole.
Okay.
Encouraging for you.
Okay.
I'm doing this every day, and this is
No.
Tam będziesz
You
miał
may
po
need to.
prawej, bo po
I
lewej
mean,
taką
it's running.
kasetkę.
Could you just hold that?
Yes,
Because I
yes,
can't
sure.
carry that and
Yeah.
Po
that.
prawej, bo po lewej taką kasetkę czarną
I
z
have a
dwoma
real problem
przyciskami.
with this.
Nic nie łączysz. Tak jest. Jeden z nich. O, git, super.
See, normally there would be a health and safety form, but oh god, quite nervous. Really does my eyes. Okay. Okay, so you're encouraging me. I see where we are.
You know.
Oh my god. Oh my god. That's why you got me to look up. Oh. Oh. Oh my god. It's fine. It's going to be all right. It's okay. There are responsible adults with me. Okay, so somebody needs to tell me where. I just need to get someone to tell me where we are. It's all right. I'm across this. I'm across this now. It's fine. I want you to tell it for the purposes of the record. I need you to tell us where we are,
So
please.
we are right now on acoustic plafond, which is under the ceiling. So we are exactly above the stage right now. This is usually a restricted area for the to the technicians, but it is available with the special person. We have this technical specialist with us, Marcin, and we could come here and see the concert hall from a completely different perspective. And in my opinion, this is one of the most interesting and thrilling places in our venue.
Yeah.
And to be honest, my dream is to be here during the concert sometime, but probably it's not possible. Yeah. So
I do find it very difficult. I do really.
how to say it in English? You have to.
Vertigo.
Oh, I have, but here I
No, well, clearly you don't because of the casual way that you're leaning over the bars.
save here because of
That's very rational of you. The surprise was a terribly touching thing to arrange, and it's almost as though they knew me, although obviously if they had known me then they would have known that I don't really like heights. In fact, I hate heights. I did feel quite precarious up there, it has to be said, but still, it was thrilling to be able to see the hall from that bizarre perspective, and it wasn't anywhere near as shaky as it looked when I started clambering down the ladder. Keep an ear out throughout this podcast for snippets from rehearsals and concerts recorded on various devices I've had with me during my 3 days in Katowice. It won't be broadcast quality. I'm not claiming that by any means. But given how modest the equipment is that I use, I'm hoping you'll get a sense of why this acoustic is so incredibly powerful, and why I, along with various other people I've spoken to over the past few days, speak so highly of the place. When I hear the music in the hall with an audience, I hear clarity and detail, and I hear warmth in a way that actually I don't think that I've ever heard before. I know that there are plenty of other locations which I ought to be going to before I start waxing lyrical about one in particular. But do not underestimate the power that a beautiful acoustic can have on your appreciation of the music that you're listening to, and also the emotional impact that that music will have on you in that very acoustic. My impressions of particular works have been shaped solely on the acoustic experience that I've had during this trip, and that's really, really powerful.
My name is Marcin Majchrowski.
You're Martin?
Yeah.
Oh, fine. Okay, well then that's really straightforward, isn't it? So the reason I want to speak to you is because I understand from your PR department that you know a lot about Szymanowski.
Szymanowski.
Okay, so that's the first thing that you've created is Szymanowski.
Szymanowski, yeah.
Okay.
It's Szymanowski.
Why
Let's
is...
say, yeah, because I'm a musicologist, so,
yes.
so I should know something about Karol Szymanowski
Yes.
works. And
That's why we're talking to each other. And the thing that I want to know is, first of all, why is it that he's not very widely known?
Oh, you think so? I thought that.
I mean, that's my assumption.
In the UK, it's really well known, better known than, for example, 30 or 40 years ago, because English conductors and let's say Anglo-Saxon musicians used to record and perform his works. For example, Sir Simon Rattle recorded his not only his greatest opera, King Roger, at the end of 80s or beginning of 90s with Thomas Hampson and some Polish singers. It was done for EMI recording record label.
What do you think attracted people 30 or 40 years ago to his work? Because presumably before then he wasn't very well known.
But if you're asking me about the popularity of Karol Szymanowski's works, another example is, for example, Pierre Boulez, who moved to his music in his late activity. I mean, few years ago, a few years before death, he recorded the Third Symphony by Karol Szymanowski and his first violin concerto with Wiener Philharmoniker, and he realized that his music is very interesting for him and very unique in the perspective of Europe and of history of music of Europe, because for him was Boulez said that for him his music is more important than, for example, Prokofiev. So I know that if we say something, we Poles say something, you can say, "Oh, you are crazy about your history of music" and something like that.
I
And,
don't know
and
that
your
I would
culture.
ever say that. That would
Yeah,
seem a terribly rude thing to do.
But
even for me.
yeah, his output is interesting because he's a bridge between a 19th century tradition of Polish culture, of Polish musical culture, and the modern one. He's the most important composer for us between Fryderyk Chopin and Witold Lutosławski in the second half of 20th century. So you can imagine that his output first was very close to, for example, Chopin works and Scriabin, very early Scriabin, and then very close to, because he was really involved in a German tradition. I mean Richard Strauss and Richard Wagner music, and his first period is really connected with that part of history of European music. The second one, for example, for me the most important and most unique is a work like. From the one hand, the opera King Roger, and for example, the myths for violin and piano. This violin cycle triptych, 3 works: Fontaine and Arethusa, Dryade and the Pan, and Narcissus. And for example, such cycles like Masques and Metopes for piano solo. And of course the songs by Karol Szymanowski. Everything is connected with ancient tradition, ancient culture, Greek and Roman, and even the culture of the Mediterranean Sea, connecting with old Arabic tradition, because he made a few trips to the Mediterranean area before the First World War, and that attracted him, and the ancient philosophy, that tradition, and that feeling of life, which was important for him and for his creativity. So he made a kind of new language, his new musical language, which is quite close to French Impressionism, but it isn't the same. It's really different and very individual.
I heard it last night in the concert last night. I heard that sort of Debussy-like material almost in a really intense way,
Yes.
almost sort of almost contorted and with a hint of menace about it. Whereas Debussy doesn't have that. Debussy for me is all beauty, whereas what I heard, there were flashes of this could all go. I don't mean the performance could all go horribly wrong, but certainly the picture that he was painting was suggesting we're teetering on the edge.
The similarity between Debussy and Szymanowski is quite interesting, but if you compare, for example, Debussy music and Szymanowski music, Debussy seems to me more colder than him. His music is really, especially the first violin concerto, for example, or the opera King Roger, or the works I mentioned, more, let's say, erotic, or something like that.
Yeah, we can say that. We can say that, and you have, and that's fine.
You have such feeling beneath, in the basement, let's say, of these works, that you cannot tell it in words, but it really exists there, and it is also connected probably with Szymanowski's. How to say it? I don't remember the word. Sebastian, you have to help me. With his orientation, because he realized that he was gay guy,
Oh, okay.
And during these trips to Mediterranean Sea, to Sicily and North Africa, he was able to fulfill his pożądanie.
Where he came to terms with his sexuality.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the most important. And the third period of his creation life, after the Poland became an independent country in 1918, was connected with idea of creating a national language, a national modern language of music. So, for example, such works like song cycle called Słopiewnie or second string quartet, and for example, Stabat Mater is connecting with, and also the mazurkas for piano, which and ballet harnasie, which is connected with Polish folk music of Tatra mountains. That was an idea of using the folklore, like Chopin did, but different way, with different modern approach to the music, not quotations. If it is clear, to create original thinking and original language of Polish modern music.
Speaking to the finalists, 3 of them, a pianist and 2 violinists, helped clarify some of my own thinking on where my focus lies in terms of blogging and podcasting about classical music. Their work, their development, is perhaps the best place to discover classical music, it seems to me. An experience in parallel with them as they deepen their appreciation through training of the art form. Surely by discovering an art form in parallel with them, we invest in those performers whose careers are about to be embarked upon. That way we develop a closer relationship with the people who are seeking to move us with their music making. We support and celebrate them in the first steps of their professional careers, because they will inspire the next generation more convincingly and more successfully than perhaps those of an older generation or those of my generation, just by virtue of the fact that they are closer in age to them.
I'm Maja Horvat, I'm from Slovenia, and I'm here because I don't really know. It's just because Szymanowski is one of my favorite composers, and I think I can achieve something here.
What sort of thing, aside from winning,
Yeah.
what are you wanting to achieve?
Well, for me, the first, the goal was to get accepted in the competition. It was my sister's wedding day, and I saw the list of the participants, and I was like, wow, I'm in. Practice now. And then I got here, didn't expect anything, and now I'm in the final, so I'm already above what I was planning to achieve. I'm playing with orchestra, and it's a dream come true.
Do you mean that you applied for this competition in order to avoid your sister's wedding day?
No, I found out that I'm in on Sister's wedding day. But if I didn't get in, I probably would have ruined the wedding.
Okay, right. Okay, I'm glad that we clarified that, because I was a bit alarmed to begin with. What is it about Szymanowski's music which really appeals to you? I come to it new, and I hear his music in a certain way, but I'm wondering whether that tallies with what you love. So I want to hear what you love about Szymanowski's music.
I love all the colours that I can achieve with his choice of harmonies and notes, and it just makes me feel stuff that other composers don't make me feel. It's more complicated in what this music does to me. But yeah, it's not just happy or sad. It goes so much deeper, and I love that because I don't really know what it is, but it makes me do things on the violin that other composers don't require, because this music is just so complex.
For me, Szymanowski always been a very important person, even a composer. It was like I've considered that composer like one of the biggest one it was natural for me. And I was a year ago I was in Rome with a recital, and I have played their variations in B flat minor, Opus 3 by Szymanowski. And then after this recital, a lot of people came to me and asked, "What was that? Great piece, but I don't know the composer." So it was like I was shocked at the time, and that I've realized that he's not so famous in the world, and that's why I think it's very important idea to develop this music, to make this music a little bit more famous, because it's a great music and it's deserved to be famous.
My name is Sulamita. I'm from Jelenia Góra, so I came to Katowice to study here. I'm a violinist. I'm thinking right now about the beginning of the first violin concerto, and I think it's like, the sound of spring, when everything is starting to get a new life and everything is vibrating and the air is vibrating, and it's such a lively music, I mean, every note he got there is like a sign of something. Every note is very important. Chopin was, the god of piano, and Szymanowski, I think, is the god of the sound in general. He invented such a beautiful language of music, and when people will appreciate it, I think he will become more and more important.
At one point during the concerto, the music reached a climax, and the expression on your face was, "We've got to the point that I've really been looking for, looking forward to." Am I right about that? Because it was that was quite a key moment.
Yeah.
Describe where that is in the music. I obviously didn't imagine it. Have I embarrassed you? I hope I haven't.
No, I'm just so happy because I feel it now. It just makes my body curl up in a ball, just what makes me feel when, I'm so little on stage and I'm just wearing my little white fairy dress.
It's not little though.
Yeah, but, are you calling me fat?
No. Oh dear God. No, I mean it's long. Oh,
I know. In this huge hall, there's 100 people behind me, and I'm playing these soft notes, and then the orchestra's just this big hug of sound behind me, and it's there for me, and I'm playing with them, and the conductor, and just I couldn't stop smiling. I thought on stage, oh, maybe they'll think I'm weird or something, but sometimes when I play, especially Szymanowski, I just can't stop smiling.
So thinking about that moment, what was that emotion? Was it that, what is the word that describes that emotion?
There's 3 words: oh my God.
Is it possible that he's in the shadow of Chopin?
Yes, for sure, I think so. Chopin is one of the most famous composer ever, and he has a very, very, very big competition in Warsaw. So it was like natural that Poland is a Chopin and Chopin is a Poland, and maybe is it true that Szymanowski is in the shadow of Chopin music?
Does it do for you what Elgar sometimes does for me? Does it sort of stir a sense of pride in one's own national identity? Not all Elgar does that, but...
I mean, I think it's, you know, like, with him it's, of course, as you know, Paul's, I am proud of it, but at the same time, I think this music is so good that it's almost like it's got its place, and now I think it does, in this kind of, in the place of the music history we all kind of share. And of course, Elgar is also that kind of universal place. So my I don't know, I don't think about him as kind of in a kind of nationalistic way of that he's Polish and I'm so proud. I'm just so proud that somebody wrote such a beautiful music.
I've really enjoyed my time out in Poland. I adore the travel, I adore the opportunities that are afforded me to do this kind of thing, and I'm always appreciative of the generosity of others in making all of this happen. It is always a treat to be welcomed so warmly by people and given the access that I have to meet so many different people and form an impression of something that I love from a slightly different perspective. So I have many people to thank, few of whose names I can pronounce, and because of that I'm not even going to try. I'll perhaps just try privately. Not everything needs to be podcasted after all. Details of all the music that you've heard in this podcast are included in the show notes on the Thoroughly Good blog. Please rate, like, share and tell all of your friends about the Thoroughly Good podcast. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes and Audio Boom. There's also a blog at thoroughlygood.me. There's also a Facebook page and a Twitter account. Message me at thoroughlygood on Twitter or email jon.jacob@thoroughlygood.me. Thanks very much for listening.